Salutations from space and aloha from Earth, friends. Gemini Brett here. Let me just push a couple buttons and I will dive into this thing. Greetings, friends. Gemini Brett here from the School of Earthstrology. I thought I would share some Earthstrology with you here live for those of you who aren't in the school to see some of the things that we are up to. Of course, you are welcome to join. GeminiBrett.com will redirect you if you push the link at the home page or at the courses page to the School of Earthstrology if you'd like to know more about this golden year. Certainly not too late at all to join us. There's a lot of content there waiting for you. I've just been presenting on the astrological houses, which were once called the places or topos, the topics. And I want to share with you here one of the practices that I'm encouraging all of the Earthstrology students to make a daily ritual. And we will play with dice, okay? But first, just to introduce the thing, we're looking here at 12 signs, like Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and 12 houses, like the first, the second, the third, the fourth houses. So importantly, houses and signs are very different things. Modern astrology, I find, really gets hung up on this idea that Aries is the first house, that Taurus is the second house, that Gemini is the third house. I mean, in fact, you'll hear in modern astrology this astrological alphabet idea that the third is Gemini and therefore Mercury is the natural ruler of the third house. Or the fifth is Leo and therefore the sun is the natural ruler of the fifth house. Well, why would the sun want nighttime? Because, friends, houses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are below the horizon. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wouldn't the sun want to be in one of the houses above the horizon, which means daytimes? Traditionally, the sun is said to rejoice in the ninth. It's the midday, height of the light, when the sun finishes his daily climb and is on his way down. So traditionally, planets rule signs, but rejoice in houses, and it's a very different system. And I don't want to be too redundant for you students of the School of Earthstrology, where you've just received 3 different classes on the houses, and it's been a long time. So there is a beautiful truth to the so-called natural zodiac, which is the 0 Aries degree rising map. There is an astronomical essence there, because that Pisces Aries cusp of the tropical zodiac, because Earth's North Pole is leaning always towards the place of the ecliptic, or our orbital path, the heart of the zodiac, to that place that we call 0 degrees tropical Cancer. And that is always due north of Earth center. Then 0 Aries in the tropical zodiac is due north, or due east of the kind of center of the earth, where we are all one, where we are all connected. So there's some truth to this so-called natural zodiac. I mean, in fact, there was a time when the signs were called houses and the houses were called places. And there was a time when the signs were called terrestrial houses and the houses were called celestial houses. And I think this is very real. So that idea of the signs as terrestrial houses makes so much sense to me in my own cosmology of the directional zodiac. It's like the tropical signs literally are Earth houses from the center of Earth, where we're all connected. But from the surface where we live, right, it's a different scene. I mean, Aries is not rising where I stand right now. Maybe for you. And if it is, it won't be for long. In fact, in the Northern Hemisphere, Pisces and Aries are the fastest signs to rise, which I won't show here. I will show them all rising in the same amount of time. Taurus, then Gemini, then Cancer, then Leo, right? Our zodiacal order every day, all of the signs rise, reach, rest, and root, moving through the houses. Okay, so last thing I want to say about this before we move into some dice games, which is the plan today, is that I've kind of mapped this as a whole sign house system, old school house system is if Pisces is rising, whether it's a 1 degree Pisces or 29, all of Pisces is the first whole sign house. I just call it the first sign. And in the Northern Hemisphere, Pisces rising natives typically have the midheaven in Sagittarius, but you can find other maps like, the Gemini rising map in the Northern Hemisphere will typically have an Aquarius midheaven. So we'll often find in quadrant house systems like Placidus, Porphyry, Campanus, Koch, Regiomontanus, Alcibiades, whatever, that the meridian midheaven is not in the 10th sign. But somewhere in the 11th, the 9th, maybe even the 8th, or the 12th. Like I've seen a client whose ascendant and midheaven degree are both in Sagittarius. It's solstice sign. She was born very far north of Earth's equator in Fairbanks, Alaska, and there's like 16 zodiacal degrees in between the midheaven and the ascendant. In the whole sign trip, if Sag is rising, then the 10th sign is Virgo. Right, and you can just count. So there's one note. Another note about the whole sign houses is because the entire first sign is the first house, it's quite literal, whole sign houses, then part of that sign will be above the horizon and part will be below. And so this map is shown in a sense like that, right? Or like, I guess in this case, 15 Sag here and 15 Gemini, like halfway through those signs at the horizon, the ground beneath our feet, and all of this is below the ground, okay? Another note is about these words that you see surrounding the wheel. This was a challenge, or the response to a challenge I presented to myself to come up with one-word statements about each of the 12 houses, which is a ridiculous thing to do. You can see for the ascendant, I wasn't even able to. I just called it the star, right? I called it path, person, personage, persona. There were all these things. I was like, whatever, it's just the star. It is the star of your show, right? If you're Sagittarius rising, that is your journey, right? And we would say, by the way, if Sagittarius is rising, that traditionally is the rudder. Every day the ascendant, descendant axis rudders against the cardinal directions, due east, due west. In fact, Sagittarius and Capricorn, they're the most south of east ascending signs. Gemini and Cancer set the most north of west. Yeah. So every day you get this ruddering happen. So one of the old words for the ascendant was horoscopos, which means the hour marker, the hour watcher. If Sag is rising, Jupiter is said to be the lord of the hour marker. If Capricorn's rising, Saturn is said to be the lord of the hour marker, but also the steersman, because the ascendant was also called oiox or iekos, which means rudder, right? For this very astronomical reason. So though many who have Capricorn rising will have a Scorpio midheaven, northern hemisphere births, or southern hemisphere births with Capricorn rising will often have a Virgo midheaven, a ninth whole sign midheaven. We're going to play today with these whole sign maps where the legend for Capricorn would be Libra. Legend just being this word that I've employed here to speak about the 10th house, which is honors, but also, vocation, your career, though I like to say making a loving instead of making a living. And we would like for it to be aligned to where you're going. There's something about the 10th is how the world sees you, like what you will leave behind for the world. Okay, so the exercise that we're after today is to get away from this map alone. So much of astrology is kind of like fixed in this idea that Aries is the first and therefore Sagittarius is the ninth. Well, friends, Sagittarius rises every day, right? So at the time that Sagittarius is rising, Leo's the ninth. And what might that mean? So I'm very strongly encouraging students of the School of Earthstrology to release this idea that the natural zodiac is the one and only map the zero Aries zodiac is the one and only map. It's like a kind of beautiful, simple system that can be a gateway into astrology, but then it is like this habit that forces us to look only through one of the 12 windows. And today we want to look through all of them. And I could go through these things one at a time, but I thought what we would do is let the dice decide. Okay, so let me put this away for a second. I want to reposition these windows so we can see a few things at once. Please give me a moment to do so. For those of you who are watching this live, oh, I was going to say I can check in with your comments, but the truth is I can't. I put that window away. All right, so I'm going to bring this dice app up that we can play the game with. Maybe you're familiar with Astro dice. You're super cool. I found these ones on Etsy for $5 US or something recently. And basically they are 3 12-sided die. One of them has the 12 signs. One of them has the numbers 1 through 12 for the 12 houses. And then one of them has planets, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and the north and south lunar nodes. And so, I mean, they're really fun. This is going to be loud, by the way, so prepare yourselves. I'm going to roll the dice here, and I received Taurus, Neptune in the 8th house. Right, so I can use these for exercise, for delineation. What would it mean to have a Neptune in Taurus in the 8th? Well, it would mean you were born a long, long time ago for one response to that. But regardless, like, what is that energy, right? We can use these for divination. I mean, maybe I ask a question and roll those dice. They can be super powerful in that regard. But what I want to do today is, I'm going to take the planet out of it. So what if I just get Taurus on the 8th? Well, here's my question for you. What's on first? If Taurus is the 8th, an easy way to answer that question is, well, what sets before Taurus? What does everything before Taurus? And the answer is Aries. So if Taurus is on the 8th, Aries is on the 7th, and therefore the opposite sign from Aries, Libra, is rising, right? I mean, I might even say, like, what planet rules the 9th if, and I roll the dice and I get Sagittarius on the 1st. Well, if Sag is rising, then Leo's on the 9th, and therefore it's the sun. Which is the house also of the sun's rejoicing. Rolling them again. What planet rules the 5th if Pisces is on the 11th? Well, if Pisces is on the 11th, then it's a Taurus rising chart. The 5th would be Virgo, ruled by Mercury. What planet rules the 11th if? And we get a Capricorn on the 5th. If Capricorn is on the 5th, then Virgo is rising. And so the 11th would be Cancer, ruled by the moon. Okay, when I do this, people are like, whoa, dude, that's like, super brain, too fast. That's just because I've done it a lot. And that's why I am strongly encouraging a practice like this. Also, those of you in the School of Earthstrology know I very much encourage drawing the seed of life, creating the 12-spoked wheel of order, the zodiac, and then labeling the wheel. And maybe you want to label your first wheel with Aries on the 1st and Taurus on the 2nd, the so-called natural zodiac. Maybe if you, like me, were born with Gemini in the rise, you'll put that as the first one on your page and the next one Cancer. But make sure there's at least 12 of these wheels. Really start getting to understand these 12 different whole sign maps of the zodiac. We'll find in a way there's actually 144 houses, not 12. So we'll just kind of peek through that veil a little bit today. I might even say the same thing about the signs, that there are 144, not 12, just in the sense that, while Aries knows Aries from within, to Libra, Aries is like a partner sign, right? And, what I know of my partner, for example, versus what she knows of herself. It's a totally different thing. I mean, I'd like to know her more and more. I'd like to know more and more about how she knows herself. But, in the end, as it was in the beginning, I will only know of her what I know of her. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of like a first and seventh house consideration, right? So for Capricorn, if I'm Capricorn rising, like that's my jam, and Saturn's guiding me from somewhere on the map, right? So I could even ask this. Well, let's say I'm rolling the dice. Here's Sag rising, and then I got the fifth. Right, so let me say if Sag is rising, Jupiter's the steersman. What if Jupiter's in the fifth, which would be what sign? Aries, right? So if Jupiter's Aries in the fifth of the Sagittarius rising chart, the fifth of the passion and romance and risks, children too, games of chance, then how would Jupiter from the Aries fifth be steering the Sagittarius journey? Right? These are questions we want to be asking, and there's a general statement about if the ruler of the first is in the fifth, these topics of passion, romance, and risk, and creativity, and art, and games of chance, children, the creations of our romantic risks, will be very important to your own journey here. Okay. All right, so let me show you, in case you do not have Astro dice, that you can often find apps to play with. Let me make sure I'm sharing enough of the screen for us to see. Okay, let's keep that big. I think we can do this. And okay, so this is like this. I just found this at the Apple Store. This dice game. Keep the school logo around because it's so pretty, as is Venus. This is why owls and myself always watch her. Anyway, this is like, you can just choose these different side die. So I've chosen two 12-sided die here, and then I'll just click that. And I think whatever lands first, 7, I'm going to work with as the ascendant, and then 4 as the house considered. Okay, so here we are. I'm looking at an Aries map, where which is the 7th, and the answer is Libra, right? So I like to say it this way. Libra is the 7th of Aries, right? There was no 0 back in the day, okay? So people say, what is the 7th from Aries? But when I say that, I'm like, well, Taurus is the first from Aries, so Scorpio is the 7th from Aries. I like to say, what is the 7th of Aries, which reminds me to start at Aries. And so Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra is the 7th of Aries. We should know that first 7th connections are oppositions. And these kinds of games really help us integrate aspect theory, which is deeply woven into the sacred geometry of the 12-spoked wheel. And let me say the 12-spoked wheels, because as we will see, the Libra rising map is a different wheel than the Aries rising map, right? If I'm speaking about the 4th house in an Aries rising map, then it's Cancer. And that's how people know the 4th, right? And I mean, the 4th house, we speak about home and family. Some will say the womb and the tomb. That's a little bit older. Back in the day, we have less of this kind of conflation of signs with houses, right? And so let's play that game. Like if I go to a Libra rising map, Cancer is not the 4th, Capricorn is. And so this is what these dice want to help me do. Now, I can start with the natural zodiac, and so that first die, if I don't have Astro dice, right, where I roll them and one of them is going to be a sign, I'm using the first die that lands as a sign. So if I see 7, I might think Libra, because 7th of Aries is Libra. But I'm going to switch that up a little bit. And those of you in the school, you will have access to a PDF where you can easily move through these 12 different wheels. Okay. And I'll speak more about how I'm switching that up upon our next roll. For now, let's dive into this a bit. Okay. And I'll just ask this simple question first. What is the fourth of Libra? And then, why? So the fourth of Libra is Capricorn, right? I just go Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn. We, by the way, want to get to the point where we are seeing this without any image on the screen, okay? But we want to get there, right? Like I want to be able to roll 7-4 and say, okay, the seventh from Aries is Libra, the fourth of Libra is Capricorn, like without pausing for a breath. And you will get there if you choose to practice in this way. And when you do, you will start seeing amazing relations. So why, for example, would Libra rise, have its home, roots, family, safety, shelter, fourth house themes, ancestors, suppressed things, the land in Capricorn? Okay, well, what is the Libra rising journey about? And by the way, this kind of rewinds the clock before a time when astrology said the North Node is the forward direction of the soul. And I'm not telling you that's like wrong or has to be wrong to also consider the ascendant as the journey. I mean, again, in the day, the ascendant was called like the rudder of the chart. In the Hellenistic times, in the medieval times, I mean, gosh, in all of the old astrology times, the nodes of the moon were worked with in a very different way than they are today by, well, at least by modern evolutionary astrologers, you know? And I might even say, well, the forward journey for the soul might look like a different image than the forward journey for the self, the one here in the body. I mean, traditionally, first house themes were like life itself, vitality, the body, right? Journey, path, person. So I just call it the star of the show. Okay, well, if you're starring in a Libra journey, okay, then one interesting question is, where is Venus? I mean, why? Because Venus is the guide of the Libra ways. So, I mean, I might look at these dies as, okay, Libra rising, Venus in Capricorn. And in a sense, I'd rather just at first ask this question, what is the fourth of Libra? Because once I get to Venus in Capricorn, now we're looking at an actress, Venus, playing a particular role, Capricorn, and how does that role fit that planet and all those things. Okay, that's going to be like kind of a next level question. There's something more foundational, fundamental, which is, why is Capricorn the fourth of Libra? So if I'm on a path of studying Libra, if I'm on that journey, even better said than studying. Like I like to say, what's rising when you rose is rising within you. So if Libra's rising, right, this is rising within you. I also like to say you can raise it up. You know, literally the eastern sky rises. Why? Because Earth falls in that direction. So we descend into matter to lift the heavens up. You see, these archetypes should have the right to evolve as much as we can. In fact, I would suggest that we are agents of the archetypal evolution should we choose to dance to the song of our soul, which is kind of optional, right? And not necessarily easy because it demands feeling. For feeling opens healing, opens knowing, opens growing, and your personal growth will be the growth of all that is. If you were born with Libra rising, I would suggest that you are here to grow in a Libra way and therefore help grow Libra from what Libra is today. So why is Libra roots in Capricorn? Well, if we want to study harmony, balance, it's very helpful to have some rules, Capricorn, at the root, some solid tradition at the root, right? I mean, even think about like the traditions of marriage. Now, I'm not saying that they're all great or whatever. I mean, from one culture to the next, there's significant shift, and they themselves have been undergoing significant evolution. It used to be all marriage was a sign. Some cultures, or at least some family traditions in some cultures, still do it that way. Why am I speaking so much about marriage? Well, marriage can be a Libra theme. Now, when I say that, I'm doing natural zodiac, aren't I? Because if you were born with Libra on the rise, then Aries, and therefore Mars actually speaks for marriage. Because marriage is a 7th house consideration, not so much a sign consideration. It's not just that modern astrology has, conflated houses with signs like, the 7th house is the Libra house, right? If 7th house is marriage, then Libra is the marriage sign. We've also gone we're doing it in both directions, which I actually just kind of stated. And yet there's a thing to that, right? So if we do think, as I just said, with Libra as like an example of a sign, very relational oriented, with like relational desires, non-hierarchical, equal relating, is what Daniel Germario of the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School, where I started my study, sees as kind of the Libra goal and hopefully destiny, right? Like, why would that be rooted in Capricorn? And so the 4th is not the Cancer house in a Libra rising design. Capricorn is. So I'd rather than answering that in 1,000 ways, send that to you as an invitation. If I'm studying harmony and balance, why might that demand order? Capricorn has foundations. And actually you see some generosity between those signs. Saturn said to keep his domicile in Capricorn, right? To rule the sign of Capricorn, to be exalted or an honored guest in Libra. Saturn Libra is much more of the justice, balance, equilibrium, while Venus Libra is much more of the relating, harmony, beauty. Okay, let's roll them again, and I'll just kind of present the rules of the game and let you go. And maybe we'll do 12 together. So there was one. Once I'm on this Libra rising map, and if I'm doing this in my head, I maybe started with Aries. I might start with Gemini, which is my rising sign. I might start with whatever's rising where I am right now, like cast a chart. But we're going to start with Aries as we did. And so we had 7. So we went to Libra. Right now I'm going to roll them again. Whatever die lands first, I'm going to call the new sign. So 5 and then 1. So if I'm in an Aries rising map, what's the 5th? And the answer is Leo. But I'm starting here in a Libra rising map. So what's the 5th? And the answer is Aquarius. I might even, before I leave, double my journey and ask, why is Aquarius the 5th of Libra? By the way, I got 1 here. So what is the 1st of Aquarius is the question we're going to ask, which is Aquarius. It's not going to do too much for us. But anyway, so we should ask at least another question here. Why is Aquarius the 5th of Libra? Why does the Libra rising path demand passion for Aquarius? Or why might it, 5th is also children, why might the Libra journey give birth to Aquarius? Well, one of the Aquarian themes is equality, right? Equanimity, right? Where so Libra might be more equilibrium, Aquarius equality, or Libra relationship, like one-on-one, Aquarius community, right? So our one-on-one relationships, right, and partnerships will open community. Our study of equality or harmony, balance, equilibrium, Libra, like you have yours, I have mine, let's compromise and find, like, scratch your back, you scratch mine, that's our kind of Libra trip. Well, that also leads to equality, Libra rising, like I want to journey into these questions of what is it to walk a mile in another's shoes or see this world through the other's eyes. Like when I have the ability to do this, it opens up, it even creates or gives birth to 5th, new ways of community, right? So like I might think that, oh, the best way for this community is this because it is what's right. Well, until I actually engage one-on-one, which is more Libra, with each person from that community, or at least representatives from different factors within that community, factions or whatever, then I'm actually just projecting onto them what I think is best for them, right? If I don't know them or want to know them or want to see the world through their eyes, I'm really only projecting. Like once I commit to that Libra thing, and exchange air, then I will have a much better ability to create passionately true equilibrium structures, Aquarius. Okay, as you probably saw, I accidentally rolled the die. So let's go to the Aquarius rising map. And I mean, we had this question of like, what is the first of Aquarius? Well, the answer is Aquarius. We might open into other questions. What is it, for example, Saturn, who's the guide of the Aquarian ways? Like, what is it to have Aquarius rising with Saturn in Aquarius as Saturn's in Aquarius now? That like opens up all sorts of wonderful opportunities for, well, feeling, healing, knowing, and growing. But instead, we're going to ask this question. I didn't even see which one of those 3 or 6 landed first. I'm going to say it's 3. Okay. So what's the third of Aquarius? And the answer is Aries. And then we'll go to what is the 6th of the third in this case. Okay, so what is the 6th sign from Aries? You know what? I'm going to actually switch it up. Let's go. No, let's do that. I want to honor what's on the page. So, cool. First of all, before we go there, why is Aries the third of Aquarius? Well, I'm looking at Aries here in the third, which I'm calling tools. Okay, well, the first tool that we have to develop is a baby that cannot do anything on its own, cannot move, cannot eat, will not survive, is to cry. Communication is born as a tool, a very imperative tool. Siblings, which is a third house theme, and neighbors will help us learn how to speak. They might, especially the siblings, also compete for our food, which is a significant need. Second, okay? But anyway, why would Aquarius rising necessitate Aries tools? I mean, in a sense, interestingly, the aspect is a sextile, which is like a harmonious aspect. It almost seems, however, like a contradiction. If Aquarius is very like community focused, right, and equality focused, it's much more than that, but let's stick with those themes. Then doesn't it seem like developing Aries tools of me and the selfness, which very importantly is not selfish, doesn't that seem like a little ironic or even contrary? And I would say no. Like if you want equilibrium, you can't leave yourself out of it. This is a very important teaching of Libra realities. And look, if I want to walk the Aquarius path, like I need to study, that's the 9th house, or have a quest into the ways of Libra. The university, that's 9th house too, Libra, right? So that's not what we rolled. But anyway, across from there, I also need to speak my truth. Yeah, like I need to understand that I'm a tool. Sorry, that's just me, I guess, finally admitting something to the YouTube world. No, I mean, I must also admit that my understanding of self and my own kind of personal needs and journey, selfness, Aries themes, and my own strength is actually a tool for this revolutionary way of the Aquarius sign, which can be about change. I mean, you can even see that one there, like, if we need a revolution, that's not only what Aquarius is about, that's kind of a modern Aquarian view, thanks to Uranus coming onto the scene. But in the sense that it can be like, if we need a revolution, well, I'm shown that my voice and my strong voice, Aries third, will be necessary there. All right, so we rolled the 6th of the third from an Aquarius map. So the third is Aries. Let's go back here. What is the 6th of Aries? And the answer is Virgo. People tend to know this map only too well, which is almost why I changed the roll on us before. But no, let's like be true to what the dice have to say. And we'll do this one next. Although I don't want to get one, so I'm going to roll them again. Why is Virgo the sixth of Aries? Okay, well, look, practice. One of the Virgo themes is sacred space. It can also be editing and can be self-editing. You know, the Aries rising path is a path of truly understanding that kind of independent, pioneering, individuating experience, right? It doesn't mean be alone at all. In fact, I'm convinced that all of the cardinal signs are service to others orientations. These archetypes we associate with Aries, like warrior, pioneer, scout, explorer, they're all actually community focused. It's just, I need to be strong so I can protect. I need to be strong so I can go first for the whole team, right? Small step for man, giant step for mankind. That's what we heard from the moon in 69, or Stanley Kubrick's, stage, if that's what you prefer. Regardless, that's that Aries intent. It's not just to do it for the glory of the self when it's done right. Yeah. But if I am like taking my mission, well, I need to tend to my health, which is a sixth house theme, not get ill. In fact, the first and the sixth have interesting correspondences in that way, where the sixth is seen as illness and the first is seen as vitality back in the day. Like when people are feeling ill or, compromised in their health, like working with the sixth and the first are both very imperative. And planets associated with those houses, depending on which signs are rising, which planets might be there, every chart is absolutely unique. Why is Virgo the sixth of Aries? Well, I also, if I want to have that strength to take this path, I need to tend to my daily things. There's a whole survival trip in the Aries reality, right? So, there's one movie, well, there's many, but the movie that I most like to present the archetypal journey through the signs with is the movie Castaway, right? And if we're stranded on an island all alone, we're going to have to learn tools and how to get food and all those things. But then the sixth is going to be the daily work necessary. There's even things here if you're going to lift weights, which is kind of an Aries trip, then you should stretch first, okay? All right, let's move on. And I'm actually going to avoid rolls where we get a 1. So the first one that lands, we are going to see is the next sign. So 8 and then 7, okay? So it says, what is the 7th of the 8th of Aries? Well, the 8th of Aries, Scorpio. What is the 7th of Scorpio? Taurus. That's going to be easier to see if I turn the wheel. I really should be able to do this in the mind's eye. That's when it really starts integrating, but it's so helpful to have images so we can do this not only in mental airspace alone, but have at least some physical connection through the eye, some sensual connection. And the more beautiful the art, the more real it feels, at least the more earth there is possible. And when this brings up our feelings, the water is in here. And as we are experiencing this kind of in spirit, the fire is always present, okay? So what is the 7th of the 8th of the Aries rising map? Why is Scorpio the 8th of Aries, etc.? I'm already longer than I intended to be, so I'm just going to turn this wheel to Scorpio rising. It will ask about this relationship axis, Taurus as the 7th of Scorpio. Well, there's a very important balance principle in any of the polarities. In truth, the 12 signs of the zodiac are actually 6 axes. Scorpio and Taurus are 2 sides of one thing. What's it called? Okay. You might get different answers there than you would if you ask it this way. Scorpio and Taurus are 2 sides of one thing. What is the one thing that Taurus and Scorpio are the 2 sides of? What is the one thing that Scorpio and Taurus are the 2 sides of? In this case with Scorpio rising, I would be more inclined to ask that question by speaking Scorpio first. why is Taurus the partner of Scorpio? And how might that function? Now, first of all, if we did ask, well, Scorpio is a child of Mars, the Martian path. Mars is the steersman or the guide from the traditional point of view for planets with charts where Scorpio is on the rise. Well, if Mars is in Taurus, and this will always be true for the ruler of the first and the seventh, it's in the sign of exile. It's like all the way across the world from its home. Mars opposite the world from Scorpio. So that opens up really interesting questions, like what is that about? Why at least once the medieval tradition came around was Mars said to be in exile in Taurus? But I did say I was going to leave planets out of this. So simply, why is Taurus the seventh of Scorpio? I want you to see Aquarius is the fourth of Scorpio. So Scorpio rising is a very courageous path of opening the heart, the art of the heart. I like to call the fixed signs the art of their elements, and I like to use this phrase, fix yourself to fix the world, right? So if I'm here ripping open the heart through the adventures into the pleasures and the pains, and consistently devoted to dying and rebirthing, can you see how like the ground beneath my feet is actually kind of turbulent, revolving air, Aquarius? So Taurus, in this sense of like, I actually need to partner with stability, with slowing down. There's going to be some resistance there. There can be always challenges in the polarities of any of these axes. Like, feel like they're kind of pulling us apart, or eventually, hopefully, putting us together. Do you see? But yeah, I really encourage you to like pause this if you're listening in what I currently perceive as the future, and just go take a journey into that question of, why is Taurus the seventh of Scorpio? How does that help? How does that hurt? How does that challenge, etc.? All right, let's roll them again. So from the windows of Scorpio, the seventh sign is Taurus. What is the 11th of the 7th if we're in a Scorpio realm? Well, the 7th is Taurus. The 11th of Taurus is Pisces. Well, that doesn't say 11, right? Because I need to turn the wheel so that Taurus is rising, and now we clearly see that 11th is Pisces. Okay, so Taurus is rising into a way of slowing down. Notice that Taurus puts Aries in the 12th of hidden things. I don't even want to hear your rat race like needs. I am here to find the grace of Earth's pace. This is a Taurus journey. Like, if that's too simple, if I take too much of an easy path, then I will partner. And remember, I am partnered with Scorpio, so it can shake things up a little bit, okay? Slow down. Remember, the roses need your noses, right? Taurus rising. Beauty is a way of life. Beauty is a spiritual journey, okay? And so why Pisces on the 11th? Well, it's very helpful to have dream team. That's like the 11th house. Community of those who share similar images for a better world, 11th house. Hopes and dreams, 11th, right? And Pisces. Like, I really do want to be a dreamer. If I want to facilitate dreaming, then I need to slow down. I mean, really, you kind of need to slow down enough to the point where you're completely asleep and space moves and then the dimensions of time open, right? Versus being in one time and the dimensions of space open. I can move this way or that way or jump up and down, whatever, There's a difference between space-time and time-space. And there's something in this combination that speaks of that. But what about the kind of compassion nature, the healing nature of Pisces? Well, it's also awesome if you're Taurus rising, which is learning the art of receiving. Now, you might think that's silly, but that's going to be one of the most challenging things to do in a culture where we are taught it is better to give than receive, that receiving is taking, that having needs is needy, that slowing down is being lazy or stubborn, right? That ordering the same thing at that restaurant every time is dull. No, if that's what turns me on, then that's the goal, you know? Anyway, it's nice to have a community of healers and givers that's like Pisces around if you're learning receiving. Somebody's like, oh, I feel like you need some grapes. You heard my heart. Thank you. You know? Anyway, that might sound a little selfish. I hope it doesn't. I hope we can learn for it not to. Okay, if Taurus is rising, then the rolling the dice ninth sign is Capricorn. What is the first of Capricorn? Drats. Okay, anyway, then let's ask, why is Capricorn the ninth of Taurus? Why does Taurus need to study, that's the ninth, in a university called Capricorn, or take that Capricornian quest, the ninth house of God, the spiritual journey? And by the way, the fifth of the ninth is the first. In other words, when I have a journey, what is the fifth? Child. The child of my spiritual journey is me. Even the child of reborn from my study is me. Right? Like, I got a degree, now I'm an engineer. You know, it completely changed my identity and my journey, not just my job and my legend. So, you know, here's an interesting thing. I mean, I just said, like, if we really want to learn to Taurus, we've got to slow down. You know, it's one thing to study with the plants, where you have to kind of slow yourself down to plant speed. You want to learn from a crystal? You know, you need to stop. I had a friend who's like, yeah, if you really want to like kind of learn about this crystal and why he's come to you and that, like, put it in your offhand, and just slow down and like tune into the crystal's heartbeat. And I'm like, what? You know, like the ability to slow down to the place where you're feeling the pulse of a mineral is like slower than stop. Yeah. So there's something here. There's also, like, I think on being passionate about like practice, which can be a Virgo word in general. There's me doing the natural zodiac again. Will help me understand that studying like foundations, it's going to help me get more fluid, you know, like some of the most beautiful dancers have these really solid frames. Like they're so Taurus dancing, right? Can be. And frame, like, what is that? It's called your carriage, right? So I need to study the carriage if I want to like really dance beautifully and sensually, that kind of thing. Anyway, that's in that map for me. Okay, if Taurus is rising, then the first sign is Taurus, and the third of Taurus is Cancer. How is Cancer tools for Taurus? Well, that's like a really interesting thing. But look, I could say this, like learning to slow down, learning sensuality, sentience, embodiment offers the tools and the voice of true nurturing and caring. I'm going to leave that there because I want to turn this wheel. So I saw the 12 over here hidden and 11. So what is the 11th of the 12th of Taurus? Okay, well, the 12th of Taurus is Aries. The 11th of Aries is Aquarius. So let's turn that wheel back to Aries. We were speaking sometime before about why is Aries the third of Aquarius, right? So from Aquarius's point of view, for some reason, Aries becomes a very important tool. From Aries' point of view, Aquarius is a dream and team. Right? Well, the Aries journey might feel like I need no teams, right? But again, as I was saying before, in that kind of small step for man, giant leap for mankind example, what is my dream, right? Like, I'm going to summit Kilimanjaro and be the first to its peak, right? Like for the world. I will literally change the world and innovate, right? By doing this new thing. I mean, it might literally be I'm looking around and I see that the ship is going down and this environmental activism is necessary. And so, but I will like pioneer, create, or invent, which can be an Aries thing. I mean, it can be so many, it can be any of these things, but something that changes that world. You know, I have this dream of changing the world, and that helps me choose my own personal empowered journey. It's a bit of a hero trip in that, yeah? There's a bit of a hero trip in the Aries rising chart. That doesn't mean bad. Let's roll. If Aries is rising, then the ninth is Sagittarius. What is the second of that ninth? What is the second of the ninth of Aries, is how I would ask this question. Okay, well, if Sag is rising, then it's Capricorn. The second of the ninth is the 10th. Did you see that? The ninth, 1, 2. The second of the ninth is the 10th. So that opens a whole nother question. But for now, we're going to turn the wheel to Sagittarius on the rise and ask, why is Capricorn the second of Sag? How does that work? I will tell you, there's always a challenge here. Now, you may have noticed that there's 4 of these houses on the wheel grayed out. And this is due to traditional aspect theory, where it said that a sign, for example, cannot see its neighbors. So Sagittarius cannot see Scorpio or Capricorn, and also cannot see the neighbors of the opposition, the so-called quincunx signs, where quincunx means 5/12. Taurus is 5/12 away from Sag in the secondary direction, and Cancer is 5/12 from Sag in the primary direction. We can see in these 4 signs, Taurus, Cancer, Scorpio, Capricorn, which form a mystic rectangle. Nocturnal cardinal earth, Capricorn. Nocturnal fixed earth, Taurus. Nocturnal cardinal water, Cancer. Nocturnal fixed water, Scorpio. Those 4 have nothing to do in those essences of polarity, triplicity, and quadruplicity with diurnal mutable fire, Scorpio, or with diurnal mutable air, Gemini, right? So the first 7th axis, the horizon, by signs, or we can say by houses, is blind to 4 of the others according to traditional aspect theory. And this is why the 12th, 8th, 6th, and traditionally also the 2nd were said to be bad houses. They're blind, or the first is blind to them. That's the first, cannot see these things. Like the 12th is called hidden things. And, mysteries is the word I wrote here, but traditionally you would probably see misery. I wrote depths on the 8th, but traditionally you would see death, okay? I wrote practice on the 6th. Sometimes some would write health. Traditionally you would see illness. And the 2nd, wealth and resources. So, how is that bad? Well, the love of money is the root of all evil. And that aside, the whole fact that the first is me, the star, my quest, my journey, vitality, how suddenly I'm separated from the 12th and the waters of the womb and the waters of the all and into my own thing. What just happened? Okay, well, what am I? Who am I? What's my journey? What's my jam? It's all first house, okay? You finally accept that, and it's oh, and I need help. I need something. I need air. I need food. I need water. At the very least, I need light. Well, in the Sagittarius journey, I need Capricorn. It's always a conflict. Neighboring signs are much more opposite archetypally than opposite signs. They don't see eye to eye. They're blind to one another. There's weirdness there, okay? It's inconjunct according to the tradition. That word inconjunct is these days in modern times often reserved for the quincunx signs, but traditionally it's the quincunx and the so-called semi-sextiles or neighboring signs or neighboring houses that are blind. So, it's interesting to think about Sag, there's a lot of freedom in that. I like to call Sagittarius the smoke that rises from the fire to the heavens, taking its own path, traveling far and wide, right? Why would that need foundations and grounding and traditions? It seems quite contrary, inconjunct, invisible, actually coming to terms with the truth that we have needs within the dreams of the design of our second sign in our chart opens amazing windows of healing and feeling and knowing and growing. So if you really want to take that spiritual journey, it is actually helpful to have a tradition, says the Sagittarius rising map, which necessitates Capricorn as the second sign. Jupiter representing the ascendant, and Capricorn the second, right? So Saturn. And the third, Aquarius, so Saturn. I'll leave that there. I'm going to do two more. I said 12, I think, and I don't know where we are. Let's play one more. If Sag is rising, then the 12th sign is Scorpio. What is the first of the 12th? Scorpio still. So let's just do this. Why is Scorpio the 12th of Sag? Well, there's something in Jupiterian signs which are very joyful, faith-based. I think faith is a better Pisces word than Sag, which is more of a seeking thing. Okay, but think about like if you're going out on the great journey, which can be, it's really a ninth house theme. So how is that tangled into the Sagittarius sign? That's this like conflation. I don't think it's only in modern times, but it's one thing I'm trying to untangle a bit, and this exercise helps with that, right? But I think of Sagittarius as spiritual seeking, journeying, right? There's also this Jupiterian kind of jovial thing in there, but more I'm kind of thinking about the optimism that is necessary in the great journey to faraway lands. Right? It's dangerous, but if you trip on that, then you're never going to make it. You might not even walk out the front door, right? So you put that Scorpio stuff up in the 12th. I'm interested, just like Bilbo's journey from The Hobbit came to mind, and it's almost like that Scorpio wizard Gandalf, who's for Bilbo maybe more Cancerian or anyway, but he's doing some hidden things back there, drawing runes on the door to make this journey happen. For the Sagittarius star, then Leo is actually the sign of the quest, and that opens up other questions that weren't in our dice roll. Let's do one more. If Sag is rising, then what is the fourth, and what is the fourth of the fourth? Okay, well, the fourth sign of the Sag rising is Pisces. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to say quickly, if you're on like a seeking nature, if you are here for the true love of wisdom and that journey, then may you be rooted in faith. Now, that being said, seeking is not believing, and faith is what we find because we had our own journey. Faith is those things that we know to be true, even though we will never be able to see them with our own eyes or share them with another, because it's about our own experience. Yeah. And so sometimes, and we see this in the nature of 1-4 anyway, it's square, it's tense. So, like my thing often has to be in conflict with the rules of the home and the mannerisms to which I was raised, you see? And so there's something about seeking is in conflict with faith, if I use those words, seeking for Sagittarius and faith for Pisces, one of gazillion words for each of the signs, right? But there's another thing here too, which is like, okay, I'm going to hide kind of like fear and the truth that I might die, and I'm going to stay rooted in faith so I can have this journey. Okay, well, the question is, what is the fourth of the fourth in the Sagittarius rising chart? Well, the fourth is Pisces, so let's turn the wheel. If Pisces is rising, then the fourth is Gemini. So if I'm on a journey of faith, right, then I need to be rooted in this kind of like, no offense, Gemini, I love you, but in this kind of like childlike wonderment. And there's something in the kind of Peter Pan, stay young, be fun nature of Gemini, where if I can really like find shelter in that place, that opens the path of dreams, Pisces, you know? Like I can only fly if I believe, you know, that's like really in this mix. Where's the conflict? Well, for Pisces, which is so much about the language of the heart, there is going to be the necessity to kind of like suppress some of like the distractions of the mind. We're going to do one more. If Pisces is rising, then the 9th is Scorpio. Okay, because you can't learn compassion without studying your own passion. Straight up. Now, Scorpio knows a lot more about that than Pisces, but if you have Scorpio, if you do your death and rebirth, it is going to birth 5th from the 8th, from the 9th is the 1st, right? You are the child of your journey or your quest or your study, studying that Scorpio authenticity of ripping open the heart, of the art of the heart is going to birth the spirit of the heart and feelings, which is the Pisces mutable water. So what is the 10th of the 9th in the Pisces design? Well, the 10th of Scorpio is Leo, which is an interesting thing. Because if I'm on a journey of death and rebirth and ripping open the heart, I love how much Scorpio risings come up in our play today. Then how is Leo the 10th? Right? Like how is Leo and like joy and light and radiance, the legend of the Scorpio star, the Scorpio rising journey? Well, friends, we don't go into the underworld to stay there. We tunnel into these rabbit holes to find the shiny gems to bring forth. But I ask you this, right? Like, why is the study of the darkness actually here to forge the legend and the living of light? And you'll always notice a square also between 10 and 1. And one of the ways that plays out on Earth is we often have significant tensions or conflicts square between what we do and how we're seen professionally, 10th, and who I am and what I want to be first, okay? But when this is balanced, it really is like I've developed this power path by like, oh, I am the phoenix that has risen from its ashes. So is the phoenix Scorpio, or is that risen phoenix actually Leo, those flames? All right. Thank you for joining me with for a Earthstrology journey. I'm going to arrange an image here. If you would like to learn more about the School of Earthstrology, you can head over to my website, which is GeminiBrett.com. Well, you have to be able to type that in somewhere. I guess it goes here. Right on the homepage of GeminiBrett.com, if you scroll down a bit, first of all, you'll find a place to sign up for my newsletter. I hope you will. I don't send them out that often. Usually send gifts when I do and offerings. You'll find an offerings page here, by the way, if you want to see different astro journeys like the one that you just participated with. Astrology sessions, if you want to book some one-on-one work or mentoring, or a song of the soul. My dear friend and master pianist Eric Deutsch and I have teamed up for years now, created hundreds of these musical versions of birth charts. And he's just an amazing piano player. You get a 12-minute song based upon harmony that I send to Eric, which itself is designed to the song of your birth chart. I'm not explaining that well. Click here. You can read a little bit more about it. If you go to the home page, just right here at the top, you can click there to find out more about the School of Earthstrology in the golden year. You can see the curriculum. We are in the midst of it, but it's definitely not too late to come and play. In fact, I've decided to offer some months, maybe even up to 7 months between the golden year and the next year, which is the silver year, for students who are currently enrolled to catch up, and you would have plenty of time to do so if you want to do all of the golden year stuff, and then join us for still the live classes that are still coming, but also the silver year stuff that will soon come, where we're going to tune into the timing techniques. You can also find my Sacred Astronomy for Astrologers course here at GeminiBrett.com. I hope you'll check it out. If you are watching this at YouTube Live and you've enjoyed this video, I sure hope you'll push the like button and maybe even subscribe and the bell so you can be notified when I randomly go live in the future, as I just did. And if you know others who would enjoy this presentation as well, please share. If you're in the School of Earthstrology, we're going to be rolling dice like this a lot in study group play to come. And so for some of you, I will see you this Wednesday Eve, where I'm excited to be broadcasting from Sedona, where our smaller Earthstrology retreat will be opening very soon in a theater called Some of You. I can't wait to spend some time with you on sacred earth under the beautiful stars. All right, for the rest of you, I look forward to seeing you in space sometime, and hope to meet you on Earth, or meet you again on Earth someday soon.